Yeah, thank you, David. Thanks everyone here as well. It's my first Resources Rising conference, and I must say I've been absolutely blown away, not just by the company lineup, which has been fantastic to see, but also by the investors that have turned up and had genuine, meaningful engagement with us. You know, it's great to be able to stand there and talk about your opportunities, what we're doing, what we're excited about. I'm here today to tell you a little bit about Basin Energy. As David mentioned, we have just come through a fantastic transformational period. We've picked up some new project portfolio, which is going to be the focus of my talk now. And we've also completed a small capital raise, which gives us enough money in the bank to be doing some drilling. And it's a very, very busy few months ahead. So I'm going to run you through our story. Our disclaimer, this presentation is, or the basis of this has been lodged with the ASX. I encourage you to read this at your own leisure and time. Now, before I go into our latest acquisition, I just want to point to our broader portfolio and acknowledge that and give you a little bit of a background to the company. Basin is a uranium focus and now a rare earth focus as well company. My background's a uranium geologist, and we IPO'd originally with assets in the Athabasca Basin. So the Athabasca Basin, northern Canada, home to the biggest uranium mines and the biggest operators on the planet, the RRS and the Camecos. We went and we conducted some early stage exploration, and we had some good success, some technical wins and some not so good successes. We are looking to vend 2 of those projects at the moment, and we are safe housing the 3rd, which we believe will have some serious benefit in the coming months and years ahead. We also took an early mover approach into Sweden and so the Nordics. Now, this was an opportunity we saw with regards to Sweden specifically, a country which is really supporting nuclear power, has recently permitted nuclear waste facilities, but has not been permitting uranium mining. Now, this is an area which has had some significant success historically from a uranium exploration point of view, with some good grades and good numbers, but no exploration for many, many years. Basin took a move, took out a reasonably large holding in northern Sweden last year, and as of a couple of weeks ago, we now have confirmation that Sweden will be transforming its uranium mining policy in early next year. So as of January, we'll have a pro-uranium policy in that country. More news to come on that as this story unrolls. Now, briefly about the board and myself. I'm a uranium exploration geo. I have been for about 20 years, worked for several of the ASX and TSX listed uranium explorers. We also have Blake Steele and Matt O'Kane. So these guys are ex-Zarga, another successful uranium group which was sold out a couple of years ago to the guys at Encore Energy. Corey Billick, Corey's ex-Cameco, and also Canalaska, who have recently had a phenomenal discovery success in uranium in the Athabasca. And our exploration manager, Odile Mofray. Odile's been floating around for the last couple of days and really brings that technical power to the company. Now the fun part and the acquisition and what we're going to be talking about mostly and the opportunities coming up and the news flow. Basin has acquired a company called Neotis. Now, Neotis hold a very large tenement package just west of Mount Isa. Now, we all know Mount Isa. We're Queenslanders here. We have an area which has historically been mined for many, many years. We have road, rail, power, infrastructure in place. The Neotis guys took a land package of almost 6,000 square k's. I've spoken to a few English people over the last couple of days in my home county of Derbyshire. That's about 2 Derbyshires. This is a big holding, guys. We believe it's prospective for both uranium and for rare earths. My initial interest in this is uranium, and I'll tell you why, and then we'll tell you why we're excited about the rare earth potential as well. Now, district scale opportunities. This sounds great, but you're a junior explorer. You've got to be able to explore them. So you're looking for district scale exploration opportunities which you can drill cheaply, cost effectively, and I believe that's what we've got here. There's 4 maps showing the models that we're targeting, but they all focus on what we're going to call the engine room to this part of the world, which is the Sabella batholith, a big granitic unit. Now, my interest comes from the granitic unit having areas of really enriched uranium in them. And this is more than likely the source rocks for Paladin's Valhalla deposit, one of Australia's biggest uranium deposits just off to the north. Now, back in 2007, when I was first exploring for uranium in northwest Queensland, the Summit Resources guys had the model, okay, we've got a big granitic unit here. It's got areas of rich uranium in it. We think it's the source for one of Australia's biggest uranium deposits. Does it have the potential to host things like we see in South Australia, like the Honeymoon, the Frome and Bayman, things like Boss Energy? The same model where we have uranium-rich rocks, constant weathering over many, many years, depositing west into the Barkly tablelands. Now, anyone who has driven around Australia will probably have driven across to the west of the Isa, big, flat land, not a lot there, sediment package. So the Summit Resources guys went and did some initial work. This is, again, back in 2007-8. They flew some EM, trying to map those old river channels, trying to prove the concept that this uranium-rich granite had been draining west and potentially hosting uranium. They did that. They did target generation. They outlined a series of areas which they wanted to drill, and then history happened and they never got drill tested. We also have a look at some historical drilling. This is a no drilling for uranium in it. We see one of the key things for precipitating uranium in this environment. We're looking for redox fronts. We're looking for areas of oxidized sediments and reduced sediments, and we've identified them in historic drilling, but we've never had a look for uranium. Is the potential there? If so, there's a district scale opportunity sitting on our doorstep in Queensland. Now, fast forward. This is, as I said, a concept from 2008, 2009. Fast forward to today, or 2 or 3 years ago, and let's look at the fantastic work Red Metal have done. So Red Metal have had a rare earth discovery in the same granite, which we're saying could be the host for uranium. In that, they've outlined the Sabella discovery. Why can we not use the same model that Summit Resources, then later Paladin, generated to say, have you got rare earths being transported into that same sediment package west into the Barkly tablelands? Now, this is a sort of model that perhaps the Brazilian ionic clay type stories might have. Why not? Nobody's looked. So let's go and have a look at that data. Let's have a look at what Summit picked out in their geophysics when looking for paleo channels. And lo and behold, about 15 metres deep, we've got a 15 metre thick conductive unit. Now, if you wear the granites, the feldspars quite often turn to clay. That clay will more than likely be conductive. So what we're seeing is this big, flat-lying conductive body, about 15 metres thick, being drained from one of the most recent and significant hard rock rare earth deposits that we know about. Now let's look at regional geochem. If you look at both Geoscience Australia and sediment samples which our predecessors have conducted, there is a regionally significant hotspot for rare earths sitting straight west of the Red Metal discovery. And that sits above this, what we're interpreting as a clay unit. We're seeing 600 to 1,000 ppm total rare earths sitting in the sands above this unit. So why is this important? Well, if you're a junior explorer, which we are, we're valued at $6-7 million. You're looking for opportunities you can test cheaply. This is amenable to the cheapest type of testing, and the reward is potentially significant. We can go and drill air core drilling, which we'll be doing over the next few weeks. Okay, so that's our sediment package, and that's the big immediate scale focus for our work program. We also have a red metal lookalike. So we've talked about the granite-hosted red metal discovery. Now, again, all comes down to the Sabella granites. Big granitic unit with widespread rare earth enrichment within it. To understand why we're excited, you have to understand how Rob and the team discovered the Sabella discovery, and that was done by looking at old seismic data. So the seismic guys had drilled holes and taken bulk samples at the end of the holes and identified, again, a regionally significant rare earth anomaly. They went and did some RC drilling, a cheap, cost-effective exploration method, and underneath it, they've had what is now a very significant discovery. Why does that matter to Basin? The Neodis guys, who Basin are now in the process of acquiring, did a similar program. They said, okay, we want to do this on a tight budget. Let's go take an auger rig. Let's go take some samples of the granite and see if we can see similar enrichment. Now, an auger drilling into granite is hard going. It's hard going to get deep. They did, and they managed some holes, and they got some pretty exciting prospects. Now, I'm going to draw your attention to Newman's there. They were drilling 5 meters from surface to the end of the hole, and they were getting 2,000 ppm total rare earths. If we can transcribe that discovery that the red metals guys had and look at it as the same set of granites, this is a pretty exciting proposition, again, for a junior explorer valued at $7 million to be able to walk out and go and drill. The red metals guys also did some fantastic early stage processing work, and they're demonstrating that this is potentially amenable to some pretty low cost heap leaching. Now, this is really important for rare earths when you're looking for value release. We don't know what we were going to see here, but the indications that this system is possibly the next producing opportunity in Australia is really good. Now, finally, from a prospectivity perspective, we look at the Sibella again, and we look at what is the known uranium occurrences in this area, and we talk about Valhalla. As I said, large deposit. We own the project about 6 kilometres directly west of Valhalla. Valhalla is what we call a shear hosted target. Uranium sitting in big faults mobilised out of the granitic unit, and it's hosted in a rock type that we call the Cromwell metabasalt. If we play around with the radiometric data and we try and highlight the specific alteration patterns that we see at Valhalla, which is pretty unique, sitting directly adjacent to that Sibella granite in the same rock type, we have what again is absolutely regionally significant radiometric targets. Now, it almost feels too good to be true. I'd love to say we're going to go drill them, but I want to go walk on them first. I've looked at enough uranium projects. But you have 6 k's away, one of Australia's biggest uranium deposits, you have very similar geophysical signatures, and you have what look like cross-cutting structures going through them. What a great place to be able to go walk up, take some samples, and have a look. Now, the acquisition, we structured the acquisition to issue no cash, stock up front. The vending company took about 11% of the company, and we have a series of back-end rewards. Now, these are performance rights, all issued on the back of significant success. So if we trigger these, it's a very, very different looking company. Again, trying to get the right balance for existing shareholders and shareholders coming in. As I mentioned, we did a capital raise at the same time, which was underpinned by a couple of our major cornerstone investors. We did this at market, and we went out to raise 1.25 million. There was no other OPIs or anything tied into that. The company had $1 million at the end of last quarter, which means we'll be sitting at about $2 million cash balance. So if you think about that from our perspective, there's a couple of $1 million in the bank. We have a big holding. We have projects which are amenable to low-cost drilling, and we're ready to go. So over the next 6 months, Basin's in a position of a low market cap with solid news flow. Our first cab off the rank will be testing for sediment-hosted Brazil-style rare earth potential directly west of a major rare earth discovery. We'll also be doing, in a similar program, testing the first concepts of paleo-channel-hosted uranium next to one of Australia's biggest uranium deposits. And then we'll be testing, using RC drilling, an analogy of what looks like the red metal discovery in the Sibella granite. Now, as you can tell, we're pretty excited about this. We've got a lot of work coming up, we've got a lot of news flow. I hope, if anything, this discussion has prompted you to look a little bit further at us. Please come and have a chat to me in the booth. We're here for the next few hours. Thank you very much for your time, and have a good day.